So, several weeks ago, we started on a journey to perhaps discover, perhaps be reminded of what the keys to the kingdom are. What is that energy that we can embody that allows us to live in the kingdom of heaven right here on earth? I invited each of you, first off, to experiment, to stretch, to see how great you could become a giver to life, that you could look at the time and energy that you embody right now in your time, especially the time you give to your own spiritual nourishment and growth, in your talents and how you share those with the world and with your treasure. To live each day, each moment, as if we have great gifts to give to the world, because we do. We started then to create a vision of what it might look like to live from that place of the kingdom, to begin to get clarity in our own minds, because it's going to be unique for each one of us. It might have some of the same components, but each one of us has within our hearts and within our souls a unique vision of who we've come here to be and how it is that we are here to add our light and love to the world. But we have to get clear about it, because we remember that no one will rise higher than the vision that they hold for their life. If we believe that we can only be this much of who we've come here to be, then we keep ourselves from experiencing our full potential. And I don't care what age you are. You can say, well, I'm already on the tail end of life, it's done now. No, as long as we're here living and breathing, we are here to add to life. Last week, we also recognized that we have to be aware, we have to continue to expand our own awareness of how life operates, at least at our highest understanding. And I shared with you 7 spiritual truths around abundance that we can begin to embody more, to embrace more, to find those areas where perhaps in our growing up, in our early belief system, these were not what we were taught, and yet these are the enduring spiritual truths of life. A greater understanding, a greater awareness, a greater embodiment of these truths is the most powerful and transformative path to life. So today, the 4th key that we're exploring is entitled Make Room for the New. So it's all about release, as the word might suggest. And here's what I ask you to consider, that while we live in a realm of infinite possibilities, we talked about this, there are infinite possibilities in the realm of God. A greater possibility cannot come into our lives when we are holding on to the old way of knowing or being or doing. We can't have the space to welcome something new in if we are unwilling to let some part of our own self or life be released. So this key is all about discovering the power of release, the power of letting go. And there's some really kind of fun and practical ways of working with this law, of putting it into expression immediately, and then to begin to see the miracles that come as a result. The spiritual principles and forces that govern all of creation can rightfully be called the laws of life. No one gets to live beyond the laws of life. No one can circumvent them. You can live ignorant of them. You can try and ignore them, but you cannot live outside of them. No one can. And when you use a law, any law, when you can understand it in a conscious way, how it operates, then you begin to become the master of that law. Being ignorant of it just says that I don't know how to work with it. I don't know how to bring this into a greater flow in my own life. Its full power and potential, when you begin to know how to master it, becomes available to you. You know, it's interesting that in the last 100 years or so, humanity has done just that with a lot of our own physical laws, with our scientific laws. As we've understood them, we've been able to begin to master how to use them. If you think back within the last century, if you would have told someone who was living at that time that humans were going to fly, their probably typical response would have been, if God had intended us to fly, he would have given us wings. You've heard that one before. That was the attitude. You know, we weren't designed to fly. And yet there were a few who believed it was possible. And by studying the motion of air, by studying the effects of it on physical objects, and applying that understanding, air travel has become not only possible, it's commonplace, although not very easy these days. I had a good friend who intended to be here for the service today from Roanoke, Virginia. He's coming in for a conference and texted me last night that his flight had already been pushed and delayed, and now he wouldn't be arriving in DFW till 11:30. So we know how to use it, we just have to get it to work in a way that serves us, and they're continuing to work on that. You know, this wasn't a miracle, although some initially might have seen it that way. It was a byproduct of our own evolving understanding of nature's inherent design. We didn't create the law of aerodynamics. It was always present. We simply got into alignment with it and were able to move from student to master. Just as there are physical laws that govern our world, there are spiritual laws that are our innate principles, and they govern all of creation. Their operation, again, doesn't depend on our agreement with them or even our understanding of them. They are in place all the time. They don't respond to one person more than another. It doesn't, and it's not dependent upon your status in society or your education or even your beliefs for that matter. They operate irregardless of our ability or awareness and how to get in alignment with them. They're impersonal, or maybe a better word might be that they're impartial. They are no respecters of any given person. They operate the same for everyone. And when we can get into alignment with them, we become masters of our own spiritual potential. These are spiritual laws, and the masters throughout the eons, as long as humanity has moved into this thinking awareness of itself, have been trying to understand and move with them. The law that we're going to focus on this morning is the law of circulation. And it's probably one of the most important laws to understand because it governs the flow of God's energy through our lives. It governs the flow of abundance through our lives. This law says that the universe, although infinite in its possibilities, in the realm of what's possible, operates almost like a closed circulatory system. Think of our bodies, for example. What we give out at every level, whether it's our feelings, our thoughts, or material things, or our attitudes, comes back in kind, is moved back in and through us, creating this incoming flow that keeps pace with the outgoing flow. And when those things are not in balance, just like in the body, we take in, to keep this circulatory system running, air and nourishment, water, food. But if there isn't a release happening through the exhalation or other releasing factors that we've been given, we experience lack. There is a lack of health that's happening in our body. And it's the same in our emotional and spiritual worlds. This is not necessarily a new principle per se for many of you. It gets talked about in many different ways. In the Bible is as you give, so you receive. That's the law of circulation. What goes around comes around is a more current vernacular of that, or you get back what you put in. Another aspect of this law that is, I think, particularly useful is understanding that the universe always moves in to fill a vacuum. There is really no such thing as empty space. It may seem that way to us, but there's always movement that's seeking to fill whatever vacuums are left. As Aristotle believed this, he was probably the first to articulate this observation in nature. Later, Henry David Thoreau would add this statement to it. He would say, "And if I can only walk with sufficient carelessness, I am sure to be filled." It's kind of a statement that makes you think and ponder. And this is what, for me, it means that if I can only walk through life, allowing the things to flow in and out without resisting them or clinging to them, if we hearken back to our July series, then there will always be the flow of God in and through my life. This simple understanding of the law of circulation suggests several ways in which we can consciously work with the law, that we can learn to master it and to prove how it is that we live from this flow of abundance that is naturally inherent in our lives. Today, we're going to look at working with this law at a physical level. Next week, we're going to look at how we work with this law on an emotional and spiritual level. So to increase the flow of abundance in our lives, and remember when we're talking about this, we're talking about the abundance of health in our lives, the abundance of the ways in which we give our talents to the world, the ways in which we receive and give love, all aspects of life, not just financially. What this law asks you to first do and experiment, if you're wanting more to flow into your life, is to let something go. With a clear intention of releasing it unconditionally. And then observe how this law of circulation moves in to fill that space. So the key to getting into an alignment with this law is to keep your intentions pure. This is not a thing that you can negotiate. Well, I'll give you this, God, if only you'll give me this. It doesn't quite work exactly that way. You can't force the law of circulation to meet your particular individual demands any more than you can force the law of gravity to yield to you. Like, would you just let them go and let them float off a little bit for me? We don't get to change how it works. We only get to be in alignment with it. But when you act with a sense of expectancy and a sense of faith that as I release, good will rush in to fill that space, you open the door for something wonderful to happen. So as we focus this week on putting this law into, this principle into motion in our lives, here's a couple of ways that you might want to consider doing that. The first exercise is around uncluttering your life. I used to move every couple of years. That's a great way to unclutter your life because then you ask very specific, do I really want to move this? Do I need this? Especially when we've moved across country a few times. We've let a lot of things go. Things are spiritual energy just like any other energy that's out there, and that energy needs to flow in order to do its work. And when stagnation exists, when we just allow things to pile up and pile up and pile up, but not give any of our attention to them, we block that flow of energy. I remember many years ago, I don't know how many of you remember Reverend Chris Chenoweth. He used to come here. He was a great mentor for me in my early days. He came one Sunday and he shared this story about a woman who had put a prayer request in, prayed with their care team there, came and talked to him specifically that she really wanted a piano. Her creative self was just wanting and had this energy of, if only I could have a piano that would help move that creative energy in my life, it would open that channel back up for me. So they were all praying for several weeks, and then she broke her ankle. And she had requested that Reverend Chenoweth come out and visit with her because she was going to be homebound for quite some time as this healed. And when he got to her house, she opened the door, and he said there was the narrowest little hallway because there were boxes and books and all sorts of stuff packed up on both sides of the walls. And so it was a single file to get into her house, and as he got further and further in, there was stuff everywhere. And he finally looked at her and he said, "Where are you going to put a piano in this house? You have no space that would welcome a piano into this house." And so sometimes unknowingly, we're praying for something, but we have held on to so much other stuff. We've got no space in our life, in our physical space, to welcome it in. When we can create some spaciousness for that, the flow of energy is free to move, is free to be that co-creator with you. And you can create a powerful spiritual vacuum and begin to prove these laws of circulation by releasing those things that are beyond your care and attention. What that means is if you haven't used it, sat on it, looked at it, worn it, engaged with it any time in the past year, it should be released. That's just dormant energy that is keeping other energy from being able to move in and through your life. So here's some suggestions. Go through your closets, your drawers, and release anything that you haven't worn, specifically around clothing or shoes, in the last year. Maybe even purses. How many of you ladies have about 20 purses all lined up, and most of those you haven't used, but you're keeping them just in case? Just in case I might need one of those. That's not to say let everything go, but keep those that really will serve you, that will allow you to be grateful and put these into use, and release the rest. Give it away, sell it, whatever. There's lots of apps now if you want to sell it, and especially if you're looking to increase some financial flow in your life, this is a great way to do it. Put it out there on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or any of those other places, and let somebody else pay you for the pleasure of enjoying that in their lives. There's attics, there's garages, not so much basements around here, which is a good thing because they would just, remember, the universe abhors a vacuum. I don't know if you've experienced this or not, but if you have open spaces, stuff seems to fill them. I've only been in this house, we bought it 2.5 years ago. We have a beautiful master closet. When we first moved in, there was still a lot of space left over. There is none now. That's my project this week, is to go through and see all this stuff that is accumulated that now needs to be released. You have to do it, fairly regularly, once a year. Otherwise, it's just stuff that's sitting there blocking the flow. And as you're going along, clean and organize them so you know what you have, you know where to find it. Now, if you have kids in your house, do that with a grain of salt because likely it's going to go somewhere else. But at least start that way. People who have taken these steps usually report some really wonderful results as a greater realization to how much stuff they were holding on to. It opens the channel so they can see other areas in their life where they might be keeping the energy from flowing the way it might otherwise. Others have suggested that doing this practice awakens in them a powerful awareness of lack that they hold on to in their lives, but they weren't even aware of it. If you've got a lot of energy about, I can't let this go because there isn't enough and I might not be able to have this again, this is the time, this is the opportunity you can work on healing that. Everyone who has done this process, and I know probably many of you have in the past, experiences a greater sense of freedom, of spaciousness, and an increase of unexpected income oftentimes accompanies it. Because that space will now invite something else. Move into that place in your life. Another way that you can increase the flow of spiritual energy in your life is to open up your finances. Many people, finances are the part, they like, I know how much I have coming in, I know what's going out, but I don't pay much more attention to it than that. And understanding that money is spiritual energy just like everything else is. It is its own form of energy that flows and moves. So we want to become good stewards and awareness and seeing that good flow moving through our lives. One of the things that David Owen Ritz, who created this class, said, open an unexpected income account. Expecting unexpected income. It's a way to tell the universe, here's some more space now for unexpected income. And whenever that comes in, put it in to the unexpected income and use that money, whatever level it accumulates, to do something that supports you in your own spiritual human journey. Learn everything that you need to know to be comfortable in knowing that your money is flowing through wisely in your life. Use it as a way to either take a class or read a book or get better educated so that you're in alignment with this. Another thing that can really open this flow is to do something nice for someone anonymously. And you really want to do this anonymously without any chance that that person would know where that good came from. Because it opens up that freedom to say, I can be that channel for somebody else's unexpected good. So as we step into this opportunity to increase, to release things so that whatever it is that we're most desiring right now has the space to flow into our lives. We turn, again, this is not just a head decision, but it's really a heart decision. We want to listen to and see where we're being guided by that divine wisdom that's within us. And that's what we're going to focus as we move into our time of meditation this morning. We're just going to spend a few moments in the quietness of our own being, not only to become more aware, to recognize the place in our lives where God's good is flowing, but to listen to and be guided to where it is that we are being called individually to open that channel wider by releasing something or things in our life that no longer serve us. So as you move into this time of inward contemplation and connection, you might want to close your eyes if that just helps bring your focus down into that place within you that you are divinely alive and connected to God in your heart space. As you breathe in and breathe out, feeling that breath reflective of the circulatory nature of God as it flows abundantly in to your lungs. And as soon as we've gotten what we needed from it, it is automatically let go. And in this time of quiet listening, simply ask the question, what is mine to release in order that I may be in greater alignment with this law of circulation? What is mine to let go of? then right here and right now, make a commitment to do that this week, to put that into motion, even if it's not completed, to start the process. And do it with a sense of faith and expectancy. That as you step into that flow, as you open that divine circulation in your life, all that you desire to live in the kingdom of heaven now flows through your life. And God, we just give thanks. We give thanks for these laws that you have put into place that we don't have to earn or be special in order to live under, but they are here for us all the time. And we just need to understand and get in alignment with them. We're grateful for your goodness and that flow of goodness in and through our lives. And we allow it to be. And whenever you're ready, you can begin to bring your awareness back to this time and space. And open your eyes. So the last idea that I want to leave you with is that none of this should be looked at like a magical cure, or this way in which you, from your humanness, get to create what you think will bring you a greater sense of happiness. As we move through this process, what we're seeking really is a changed consciousness. We're seeking to become more aware of where we have adopted beliefs and principles about lack in our lives and to let those go. We're seeking to live from a space of knowing that God's flow is always available to us. And with these tangible and practical steps, this is about living with a total sense of freedom. It is about trusting in life. And it is living from an awareness of God's rich abundance that is your source, that is given to you as your divine birthright. The true result that we're seeking is an altered state of living and understanding life. And everything else follows as a result. Or as Jesus said, seek you the kingdom first, and everything else will be added. And as we master these keys to the kingdom, as we step into a greater and greater experience of living in that kingdom, we too can be dancing on the waves with God. Well, we are grateful, and we continue to know and feel and have faith and trust in the flow of abundance in and through a center of unity. You know, it's interesting that sometimes when you step out onto this, the universe says, oh, you have faith. Oh, you do trust in this. And they put a little obstacle in the way just to see how faithful and trusting you really are. And it's interesting, we're doing this prosperity series, and I just share this with you. And last week we had the lowest offering I think we've ever had on a Sunday morning, which again is just, that's the flow in that time, and we still continue to trust and have faith and not let it rattle us, not let it deter what it is that we know that is ours to do. And so we are just grateful. We continue to be grateful for the many ways in which good flows in and through this community and all the channels that we receive it from, both expected and unexpected good. We stay open to it, and we know that it is part of this journey for this community. So let us join and bless these gifts that we are offering today, or the energy of them, if we give through the electronic program, or this is not our Sunday to share, and bless them together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. In just a moment, oh, thank you, Father, Mother. Yeah, we got to thank Father, Mother, God. Yes, we do. Thank you.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as a Father, family all are we. Let me walk with my family in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And so as we go into this day, into this week, we go knowing our prayer for protection together. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. And the presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.